Hey, welcome to the Learning Drummer channel. Today we're talking about advanced warm-up techniques. What we're talking about specifically is the basics of polyrhythm and the basics of multi-stroke. So, with polyrhythms, someone could say that what you're doing with the drum set is a polyrhythm because a polyrhythm is a single rhythm that's produced by multiple rhythms. So that's one way to look at it. But what you do to start out practicing them is something along the lines of eighth notes versus triplets or twos versus threes. So what you have is a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3. Very simple. Okay, the next step, of course, would be something like 3 and 4. The next step is 4 and 5. Okay, when you're doing the 3 and 4, it's 16th note based, and so you can actually ad-lib a little bit with that. You got the idea. So that's 3 against 4 with a little bit of ad-lib, and so that's the basis of polyrhythms. Now, we're going to move on to multi-stroke. Okay. All right, took a little break, so now we're back. All right, multi-stroke. What we're talking about here is multiple strikes on an instrument between pulses. So what you're talking about is if you're thinking of a pulse is the quarter note. So in a 4/4 measure, you have 4 pulses. You have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. So multi-strikes or multi-strokes would be how many notes can fit in between each pulse. That's the first way to think about these things. So what you have is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3. So there we had 2s, 3s, and 4s against the pulse. Now, the way that Gary Chafee taught me was you look at it in numerical value. So you have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7s, and 8s. A lot of the world thinks of it in different terminology. Of course, I was raised with eighth note triplets, 16th notes, etc. But some people look at it as, let's say, a group of 5s would be, I think it's a quintuplet. 6s are sextuplets, 7s are septuplets, 8s are octuplets. I draw the line at 8, but that's where we're staying. This is with groupings between pulses. So what you want to do is to practice these, you've got to have a metronome. And of course I have my metronome right here, which is the metronome that I use for demonstration purposes. Right now it's currently set at 92. I'm just going to say, all right, I need to feel comfortable at 8s at 92. But I don't have it locked in my head yet, so I'm going to start out with just 16ths. 1 iena, 2 iena, 3 iena, 4 iena. Double. Okay, staying with that, now I know that it's going to be okay. Now, what I like to call scales. Some people call them scales. I don't know if it's a widely used term or not, but the scale is a rhythmic scale. So let's say we start at 8s, we then go to 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and back on up. Let's see how we can do with this. 3, 4. Okay, Gary Chafee used to say, practice that every day. Practice your scales, practice the different mix and match methods. And what I mean by that is you can play a 3 against a 4, and then go back to 3, and then against a 5, a 3 against a 6, a 3 against a 7, a 3 against a 8. Back it down again, 8 against a 2, 8 against a 3, whatever it is, mix and match them. Now you'll notice there is no accents played in that. This is just so that you can get the feel of these things. Now, for me, it's been 25 years since I earnestly started to practice these things. I just started practicing them about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, to get ready for this video because I knew that this was an important topic for us. So, what I did was, 7s just don't fall naturally into me. 5s are not a problem. But in Gary Chafee's books, he has a whole plethora of exercises, or plethora, call it whatever you will, tomato, tomato, of exercises on all of these techniques. And as a matter of fact, he incorporates it in other ways, which we'll get to in the second way of thinking about these. And basically, what he does is he will break them up into different strokes. So let's say with a 5, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, let's do a double stroke in there. And I'm talking about an inline double stroke. Just for your own information, an inline double stroke is something like a paradiddle, where it's still 16th notes, but it's not a roll. It's not 1 and something like that. It's okay. Now you can, I think there's what they call an 8-stroke roll out there maybe. It's been a long time since I did rudiments, but 2 singles and 3 doubles. Okay, that is in line. But if you were you got the idea. I'm not concentrating on what I'm playing. I'm looking at this little red light. That's my fault. Sorry about that. Okay, so I digress. All right, so back on it, you can see that there is a lot that you can do with these different note patterns that will fit between these pulses. Now, the first pulse of any measure, whether it's 4/4, 5/4, 6/4, whatever it is always referred to the downbeat. So you want to make sure that you're thinking of where the downbeat is, and as Bernard Purdy says in one of his videos, never lose 1, which is the downbeat. But we're going to talk about groupings and how they can cross pulse lines. That's the next part of multi-stroke playing. But what we're talking about right now is still what to practice to warm up, not how to. The next thing is, so you've got these multi-strokes, you're starting to understand them, you're starting to ingest them. Now if you're going to be accenting the first one, think of it as a true double stroke, not just an in line. So what you're talking about is like 1 en, a 2 en, okay? Those are double strokes. So instead of doing an accent, throw in double strokes. You know, a double stroke that's not in line, or you could start with an accent. The last thing to do with these is to start to incorporate them between your hands and feet. Maybe do a 3 in your hands and then a 4 in your feet, and a 4 in your hands and a 5 in your feet. This is, of course, thinking that you have double pedals. If, in fact, you're doing it with a hi-hat, it just makes it harder. It just slows your speed down. Hi-hats oftentimes don't have the same recoup time as a pedal does, but you got the idea. You can do it just the same. Okay, now the second way to think about multi-strokes are still groupings that are part of a overall, but they cross pulse lines. So if you have a 4/4 measure, and in it you have, as an example, 4 groupings of 4 notes, in other words 16th notes, all the way through a 4/4 measure. 16 notes, 16th notes, 16 notes. You got the idea. All right, so you can put in 2 groupings of 5 and a grouping of 6, or 3 groupings of 5 and a single. So there are ways to play with this, and as you accent those things, they actually throw off the accent of the pulse, and that's why it's called groupings that cross pulse lines. It gets tricky. Don't get me wrong, it truly does. But one thing that you have to think about when you're doing that is, first of all, it's 16th notes. So if you do, let's say, 3s over a 16th note, which is 1 a 2 a 3 a 4 a, you don't want to make it go into triplets. You don't want a 1 a 2 a 1. No, you want a 1 a 2 a 3 a 4 a 1 a. Okay, they stayed 16th notes, but there was 2 groupings of 3s in there. Make sense? It becomes pretty tough to practice it, but you have to concentrate on all that. So that's the 2 ways that you want to think about multi-strokes. Now, I mentioned before, Gary Chafee has some wonderful books on all of this. I strongly recommend his books. There's a new guy on the market, Jeff Johnson. He has a new book out. I think it's called Note Groupings and Combinations for the Drum Set. It's getting a lot of great reviews. I think you can get that on Amazon. Look them up. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a very blessed day, and may God bless you.